Hey everyone, we're going to go through Unit 9 Notes 2 today, which is about lateral and surface area of cylinders. So a cylinder is a three-dimensional solid that has circles for bases, and then it has one rectangle that wraps around as its side. You all know what a cylinder is. You might not have known the term, but that's what it is. That's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at lateral area first. So the formula for the lateral area is going to be 2 times pi times r times h. So 2 pi r times h. This is basically just the circumference of the circle, of the base, times the height of the prism. So your r is your radius, and your h is your height, again, of the prism. And this does make sense if we were to look at a net and a net is just a folded out picture of what the cylinder looks like. A cylinder, again, is basically just a rectangle with 2 circles on it for bases. And because this rectangle here wraps around the circles, it makes sense that this length here is the same as the perimeter or the circumference of this circle. If we times that by the height, that's what's going to give us the area of this rectangle. So that's where this lateral area formula comes from. You don't have to know this. I just wanted you to know where it came from. You just need to know this lateral area formula and how to use it. So let's look at the cylinder over here. First things first, I need to figure out what the radius is. The radius, remember, goes from the center of your circle to a point on the circle. We are given the diameter, and I only want the radius. I only want half of this. So to find that, we're going to take 8 and we're going to divide it by 2, and that gives me 4. So my radius is 4 meters. The height is just, again, the height of the whole thing. It goes from one circle to the other circle. So that's going to be 13 meters. And now we just plug it into our formula. So again, that it was going to be 2 pi times 4 times 13. And we just plug all of that into our calculator. And we are left with 326.73. So my lateral area is 326.73 meters squared. And again, that's basically just the area of this rectangle that's around the cylinder. It does not include those 2 circles for bases. Number 2, same deal. We need to figure out what our radius is. And this time it actually gives it to us, right? It's just this little half that goes across there. So I'm just going to label that real quick as 3.5 inches. And then the height, just like it is on all of these, is going to be that side that connects both the bases. So that's 6 inches. We're just going to plug it into the formula. So again, that's 2 pi times 3.5 times 6. Plugging all that in will give me 131.95. So my lateral area, 131.95 inches squared. Hopefully this is pretty straightforward now that we kind of understand what lateral and surface area are. But if you have any questions along the way, just let me know. Now we're going to look at surface area. So just like last time, it's the area of every part of my three-dimensional shape. So the surface area formula is going to be that 2 pi r times h, which is the same thing as my lateral area, plus 2 pi r squared. This pi r squared, remember, that's just the area of a circle because there are 2 circles there that we have to add. We're going to take that area and multiply it by 2. And just like last time, your r is your radius, and your h is the height of the cylinder. So number 3, I'm looking for the surface area of the cylinder. My radius is this 5 inches right here. The height is the 9 inches on the side. And then my formula is 2 pi times 5 times 9 plus 2 pi r squared. All right, and that's just 5 squared. And I'm using the parentheses and the dots interchangeably. Remember, it's just multiplication. So we have a variety of ways to express that. So this time I chose to use parentheses instead. So if that's kind of tripping you up, just let me know and we can talk about it. I'm just going to type all that into my calculator, and I end up with, well, I'll type in this first little bit here, that 2 pi times 5 times 9. That's going to give me 282.74. And then the 2 pi times 5 squared gives me 157.08. And then I'm going to add those two together to end up with 439.82. So my final surface area is that 439.82 inches squared. Let us know if you have any questions about that one. All right, so same deal. I need the radius. The radius, remember, is only a portion of this line. So I need to take that whole thing and divide it by 2. So 15 divided by 2 gives me 7.5. So my R is going to be 7.5 millimeters. My height is that 18 millimeters on the side there. Now be careful, because sometimes your cylinders are going to be laying on their sides. So it's not always the number that goes up and down here. Remember that it connects the circle of your top base with the circle on your bottom base. I know we can't specifically see that here, but we can kind of imagine that it's there. So just keep that in mind as you're going through that. And now my surface area formula. So it's 2 times pi times r, which is 7.5, times h, which is 18, plus 2 pi r squared, or 7.5 squared. That 2 pi times 7.5 times 18 is going to be 848.23. And then the 2 pi times 7.5 squared is 353.43. When I add those together, I get 1,201.66. So my final surface area is 1,201.66 millimeters squared. Now, once again, in your homework, you're going to be asked for both the lateral area and the surface area, so just keep that in mind and that you know which formula you should be using when. Last but not least, I have a word problem. It's really not that different than what you've already been doing. So I'm looking for the surface area. So first of all, I'm going to highlight that. I want the surface area of my cylinder. It has a diameter of 6 centimeters and a height of 4.8 centimeters. So this gives me all of my information. But I'm going to use the surface area formula, which I'm just going to write here. So that's going to be 2 pi r times h plus 2 pi r squared. So my r is going to be, well, we have to figure that part out, right? I'm given that the diameter is 6, but I don't want the diameter, I want the radius. My radius is going to be your diameter, which is 6. So divide that by 2, and I get 3. Now again, if you're a visual person and you want to draw it out, here's your circle. It's got that diameter of 6 centimeters. But remember, I only want half of that. So that little half there is going to be 3 centimeters. So if you're a visual person, feel free to draw it out. That's totally fine. And then we're just going to plug everything in. So I've got 2 pi, my r is 3, my height is 4.8, right? I'm just getting that from the problem, and I figured out that my radius is 3, and then it gives me my height in the problem, plus 2 pi, and then r again is 3 squared. This first little chunk here, when I type that into my calculator, I get 90.48 plus, and then the second chunk over here, that 2 pi times 3 squared, I get 56.55. Adding those together, I end up with 147.03, and that's going to be centimeters squared as my final surface area. Just pay attention to what the question is asking for, because this could have very easily asked for the surface area and the lateral area, so just make sure you know what your question is looking for before you start plugging it into formulas. All right, so go ahead and work on Unit 9, Practice 2, and if you have any questions, again, let us know.